Okay, guys, so now we're going to talk about the mixer. So the mixer is pretty much how you're balancing and EQing sounds. You can balance and EQ sounds over here, sort of. There are tricks and tips that I will show you. We're not there yet, but the main way you're going to do it is through this mixer. So this mixer, it looks a little complicated and overwhelming, but let me show you. The first track corresponds with the first track, the second one with the second, the third one with the third, and the fourth one with the fourth. If you rename this, so it says sample one, I can rename this to bubbly, and then all of a sudden when I hit enter, it renames this track over here. So the colors coordinate, the color here, the name coordinates, everything coordinates with this track. So that way you don't get lost. So once again, track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4, and I can do it the opposite way. I can go track 1, track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4. So this right here is a volume slider, okay? Let me pull one clip out here by going to my media browser. I'm going to go to my shortcuts and we're going to pull a nice piece of music out here. I'm using Andrew Kramer's Pro Scores here. So I'm going to go into inspirational. We're not going to get anything massive just because I'm not trying to blow you guys away. So we're going to go to change it and we're going to pull it out here. I'm going to stop the preview play and we're just going to jump in right over here. Now I'm going to go back to my mixer by clicking right there. And I'm going to come over here to bubbly track, the green one, okay? So when I play this track, you will see 2 bars of levels bouncing. This bar will bounce and this bar will bounce. This is just so you can see what's going on, but this is so you can edit what's going on. So I'm going to play that track, okay? So now you see they coincide, this one and this one coincides. And I can turn it down, or I can turn it up and make it louder. It's really up to you, but this slider basically tells you where you need to be, okay? If you want it more normal, you'll leave it at 0, okay? If you want to pump up the volume, then you need to go above 0, and if you want to take the volume down, you need to go below 0. Okay, so you'll also notice that there were some lines popping up over here. What's that all about, Brian? Well, these lines are connected to the master. So if I had 12 tracks on here, all of those tracks would have the green bars bumping when sound pushed out to them. All of these tracks feed out through the master track. So if you need to adjust the overall volume of your project, you can do that, okay? So let me show you. Originally, we worked on this track right here. We turned the volume up and down on this track, okay? So I'm gonna play that again, but I can also adjust the volume on the master, right? So the master adjusts the volume of everything that's coming out of your speakers. Everything, whether it's the first track, the second track, 5 tracks together, it doesn't really matter. This is where you make the change to the overall volume of your file, okay? So that's this area right here. So we already understand this is the names, these are the color connections, and this is just read, just leave it as read, don't mess with it, don't touch it, you don't need it. This is your pan. It's the same as the pan that we talked about in the track. You can pan it right here. And then this is your volume, I think. No, this is your secondary feed. I wouldn't worry about this. Just leave this alone. Let's just minimize that. This is your effects rack, okay? So do you remember when we were talking about effects? If I put a series of effects on this boxing announcer, and then I go back to my mixer, you see that we have those right there, okay? We can turn them off from there. We can turn them on from there. We can pre-render it from there. And we can just turn it off and on, okay? So let me get out of this. Let me go back to my effects rack. Let me turn that off. Oh, go to default. And then let's go back over here to our mixer. So a quick recap. This is for your levels. This is how you adjust the individual tracks, is by adjusting their individual color. You can adjust the overall track by going into the master. No matter what you want to do, if you want to get quieter on an individual track or the entire thing, you go below 0. If you want to make it louder, you go above 0. Just a warning, you shouldn't go above 0 very often. Just saying, I'm just saying. People have this piped into their ears. If you're listening to this, you're probably talking about doing a podcast or an audiobook. You don't want to blow people's eardrums. You shouldn't really go above. I would say maybe you bump it up to 3. You're stretching it if you push it to 6, and somebody's coming to get you if you push it to 9. Okay? So there's your general rule of thumb. This is the same right here as over here. We're going to get into that later. This is your effects rack. We're not even going to touch this. You don't need it. We're not touching it. Just leave it alone. This one is actually pretty interesting. So here is where you power on and power off your EQ. And this is an EQ for each track, and you also have one for the master. This is a unique area of discussion, and I think you can use it, but I don't really want to show you how to get into it until you've got a few things to work with. Let me just give you a quick preview. This is where you'll adjust your highs, your mids, and your lows, and everything in between. You're not ready for this yet, so let's just leave this alone until we've gotten further into the tutorial. I'll come back and show you this. Okay, so I will see you in the next track so you can understand the levels.